It is exactly 6:37 Central African time. In just a moment, we'll be talking to Calvin Chisanga, an economist based in Zambia. Now, he has penned a rather interesting article about his country's transition in the issue of power generation. He speaks about what made the country, which is Zambia, stop and think how not to depend on one source of power like they did with water. And you will remember that is something that got them in a bit of trouble during the drought season. So how do you better diversify? How do you better mitigate your risk? This has been central to Zambia's rather energy mix. To tell us about the lessons that other African countries can learn and about Zambia's own experience with electricity and power. We joined this evening by Calvin Chisanga. A very good evening to you, Calvin. Welcome to Africa in Business.
Thank you so much. My pleasure being with you, Ngubani.
So perhaps let's start by hearing about the country's reliance on water for electricity. Give us the circumstances around that.
Okay, so in terms of Zambia's energy basket, we basically have hydro power as the main source of generation, which actually accounts for a largest component, which in any case, I would say it's around 83.5% in totality. And of course, the other combination as maybe termed like thermal, and obviously we're also using diesel and many other energy sources. But again, we're at a point when we are
Are you with us, Calvin? All right, we seem to have lost Calvin Chisanga. We'll take this line back to our producers and see if we can get him back on a better line. It's exactly 6:40.
Zilipendwa na Abedi Jean de la Croix.
Tuambie ulianza lini safari yako ya muziki, tuanzie hapo hapo.
Mimi nimeanza safari yangu ya muziki ilikuwa ni mnamo mwaka wa 2019 nchini hapa Uganda, Kampala.
Ulianzia muziki wako nchini Uganda. Okay, vizuri sana. Kwa sasa wewe unapatikana nchini Uganda. Tunaambiwa kwamba unapatikana katika kambi ya wakimbizi ya Nakivale nchini Uganda. Maisha yako ya kila siku kambini yakoje?
Maisha hapa ni magumu, sio marahisi hivyo, kwa sababu kambi ya Uganda ni tofauti na kambi zingine, kwa sababu wakimbizi huwa sio wote ambao wanapata sijui kupokea. Kuna ambao wanapokea na kuna wale wa kitambo kama sisi hatunaga tena au masuala ya kupokea. So ndio maisha ni magumu sana hapa kambi. Unajuta muda kufocus sana kwenye muziki unakuwa hautoshi sana. Muda wote unakuwa na focus yote
ya muda unakuwa ni mdogo sana.
Zilipendwa kuanzia saa 12 kamili majira ya Afrika ya Kati hadi saa 1 kamili majira ya Afrika ya Kati.
Conversations are happening, and Channel Africa is at the heart of them. We tell the African story with clarity, pride, and purpose, reaching audiences that matter to your brand. Partner with us and connect your business with listeners across borders in multiple languages and markets. For partnership opportunities, sponsorship, or sales, email us at partnership@channelafrica.co.za. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Africa in Business with Tami Ngubeni.
We continue our conversation with Calvin Chisanga around the energy mix that Zambia is experiencing. And we were asking Calvin about the country's reliance on hydropower, and you were just taking us through that. Please do continue, sir.
Okay, so for many years, hydropower has been the backbone of Zambia's electricity supply, factor. Obviously providing the much needed the majority of national energy generation capacity. So of course with the aspect of droughts which we experienced quite in the recent past, and the changing patterns of climate behavior, which has exposed the risk of relying heavily on one energy sources, has given shape to go into energy complex factors, where we're talking of now other energy sources which should be able to interplay. Of course, the reduction in water levels have affected the energy generation capacity as the leading factor, and much more. We have had the impact on household business and the industrial capacity in terms of production. So in response to this, Zambia went into now trying to panel beat the 2019 National Energy Policy, which has given now birth to a number of liberation in terms of trying to liberalize the sector, in terms of trying to make sure that we have got other forms of energy intervention, which also speaks into the aspect of open trade system and access, and also aspect to do with the net metering, where even at household level, you're able to sell back power if you produce much more from that perspective. So there has been a lot of liberation that we are seeing in the energy sector. The reforms are now giving quantifiable effect in terms of trying to make sure that we are moving from the crisis now into sufficient supply, which has also brought about the aspect of economic transformation through diversification from that angle.
I mean, you spoke about hydropower, and that's what we're speaking about now. It currently provides around 81% of the country's energy, with sources like the Kariba, for example, and Victoria Falls, among others. Where are and what are the other energy sources that the country is looking at for alternative energy?
Okay, so we recently had commissioning of the project called Chisamba, which is basically a renewable energy facility, which is basically now giving about 200 megawatts. And also we've got other projects that are dotted across the country, which are also basically a diversified sort of investment portfolio, also trying to interplay into this. But much more also, the players in the market with the independent power producers also are interplaying now into energy trading system. Zambia is now tapping into the region as well to just complement from there. So even as we are looking forward to get this liberalized, obviously there are a lot of interventions that have also taken place there. So the Zambia's energy story is changing from managing power shortages now to creating more opportunities in terms of trying to widen the basket. So at the moment where we are, the energy balance sheet is quite conducive to making sure that we are basically meeting up the demanding nature of energy every day in terms of meeting household economics as well as industrial activities as well.
If you look at South Africa, Kelvin, coal is one of the major sources of energy in South Africa. And you'll find it in other countries as well, in Southern Africa like Botswana, and Zimbabwe as well. How prevalent is the usage of coal as a source of energy in Zambia?
Well, for Zambia's case, I think we are using about about a substantial amount of coal to produce the thermal electricity, which we are also tapping from Mamba Quarries. Obviously, that plant is producing about 300 megawatts. I should be able now to see that it has been excelled to some good levels now, almost close to 500 megawatts. So yes, coal is still a safer way of doing it, but we have remained quite conscious, even in the Zambian case, in terms of how we work around this important energy facility. But again, with the transformation that is taking place, we are talking of just bringing every energy mixed into the basket so that we can be able to have quite enough energy security to run up with a lot of demanding pressure. You mentioned of South Africa's South Africa's most industrialized economy, which has experienced significant energy shortage as well. But of course, it's because of the aging generation infrastructure that we have actually been able to see from that end, where your demand is quite on an elevated point, as well as also meeting the factors to do with supply constraint, which the country has seen there. But again, with the case in the Zambian case, we have provided now some sort of predictable environment within the energy sector. If you also look at the Southern African market, Botswana, Zimbabwe, yes, they have completed some of the cases. Like in the case where Zambia is, we share some facilities with Zimbabwe in terms of water, volumes and all sort of things from that perspective. But what we're also looking forward is to see how we can have energy open access into the regional market. As we speak right now, we've got a power line which is being built, which will connect into an eastern part of Africa, where we are directly, pointing a critical target to Tanzania, because we haven't, developed or established anything in this line. So overall, what I should be able to say that what we have seen is a demonstration of a strategic move preventing future energy shortage that we should be able to see. So Zambia is turning the page, looking forward to have a productive output of about 10,000 megawatts, which we should be able to actually be able to activate, so that we can be also, participate in the regional market by way of supplying surplus into the market.
You spoke about Chisamba a little bit earlier on, which would be around solar. Oil and diesel, are those options?
Okay. The Chisamba Energy Complex, it's something that is under the test to see that we can replicate this, facility, because our target basically with the Chisamba has been to, tap power using, sunshine, so that we should be able to see how we can be able to reduce the variability that we see on energy aspect. And again, it's a story that is reflecting strongly of Zambia's electricity transformation story, which basically just talking to say it's not about solar panels, but it's more about even to look at how we can sustain, power supply factors to learn the economic confidence, as well as the importance conditions of productions.
Zambia has a really strong and vigorous mining industry. How has this industry responded to the availability of power in the country, as well as the changes that have been effected since that drought in 2024?
Okay, so as I mentioned, the central government, through various stakeholders, including the regulatory bodies, they were about to, they actually looked at into the aspect of energy national policy of 2019, trying to see how we can liberate and make a few reforms from there. So what has really kept Zambia afloat in terms of energy supply factors, it's the policy reforms that we have basically anchored from there, meaning even when it comes to regional energy trade system, as being able to work out, typically from there, because we have actually been very active in the Southern African independent power producer, where we have seen that something has really, taken shape. And I should be able to say that we are also working on the liberalization of some sort, where energy transactions now are taking place on some of the facilities. Like, for example, you can also weaving the power on infrastructure that are state-owned, and then you even make some payment based on how much you are using those facilities.
Right.
So there has been the integration of some sort, but again, the challenges still remain quite stronger in terms of what we see.
Kelvin Chisanga, thank you so much for taking us through that, the energy dynamics and the energy mix as far as Zambia is